poor girl sat beside the wrong stranger at a snowy train station, never knowing he was a millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. It was a cold, bitter evening at the train station, and the snowflakes fell softly, covering the world in a blanket of white. Emma Brooks stood under the flickering station light, her coat barely keeping the cold at bay. She clutched her bag tighter, the weight of the world on her shoulders. Her shoes were worn, scuffed from the many miles she had walked in search of a job. She was exhausted. At 25, Emma was struggling to make ends meet. Her dreams of becoming an artist seemed so far out of reach, and her rent was due. She had just one more shot, an interview the next day that could change everything. She glanced around, seeing the other passengers rushing to catch their trains, their lives moving forward while she stood still. She wasn't like them. She didn't have the luxury of an easy life, and it seemed like every door she knocked on only led to disappointment. As she sighed, the wind blew stronger, and she pulled her coat tighter around her. Her fingers were numb, and she couldn't stop shivering. It was then she noticed him. Sitting on the nearby bench, there was a man, dressed in a dark overcoat, looking out at the falling snow. He appeared calm, almost detached, as if the cold didn't bother him at all. Emma glanced at him and felt a strange sense of urgency. She had nothing left to give, but somehow, she felt the pull to help. The man's shoulders were hunched, and his face looked cold and tired. She hesitated for a moment, then made up her mind. She walked over to him, and without saying a word, offered him her scarf. "Here," she said softly. "You look like you could use this more than I do." The man looked up at her in surprise. He blinked a few times, and for a second, Emma thought he would refuse. But then, he smiled faintly and accepted the scarf. "Thank you," he said quietly, his voice deep and warm. Emma sat down beside him, unsure of why she had done it. She had nothing left for herself, but somehow, giving something to a stranger felt right. They sat there in silence for a few moments, the only sound being the soft hiss of the train pulling into the station. Emma felt a small sense of relief, as if for just a moment, the weight of her world had been lifted. But as the train doors opened, she stood up to leave, her heart heavy with worry. She couldn't afford to stay any longer. She needed to catch her own train to the interview. "Good luck with everything," she said quickly, turning to walk away. The man nodded and gave her a brief smile, but Emma didn't look back. She hurriedly walked toward the platform, her footsteps echoing in the empty space. Little did she know, this small act of kindness would lead to a life-changing twist in her future. Emma's story had only just begun. Emma woke up the next morning feeling the weight of everything pressing down on her. Her tiny apartment felt colder than usual, the heater struggling to keep up with the chill in the air. She pulled herself out of bed, her mind still heavy with the thoughts of the day ahead. Today was her big interview, the one that could change everything. But even as she prepared, a nagging thought lingered in the back of her mind. The man at the train station. His face, his quiet gratitude, and the warmth of his smile stayed with her, and she couldn't help but wonder if he had been a symbol of hope she desperately needed. As she stood before the mirror, adjusting her second-hand blouse, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted in her. That brief encounter, that simple act of kindness, had somehow brought a sense of calm she hadn't felt in a long time. It was as if, for the first time, she wasn't alone in her struggle. She grabbed her worn purse, stuffed her resume inside, and left her apartment, heading for the bus stop. The day was gray, the kind of dreary weather that seemed to match her mood. As she boarded the bus, she tried to push the thoughts of the man at the train station aside. She had to focus. This interview was everything. Emma arrived at the office building a little earlier than expected, her nerves already starting to settle in. She was greeted by a receptionist who smiled politely, but didn't seem to notice the quiet desperation behind Emma's smile. "Good luck," the receptionist said as Emma stepped into the elevator. Emma smiled back, though her heart raced. The interview room was sleek, modern, and intimidating. She took a seat in front of a polished wooden desk, trying to keep her hands from trembling. She looked around, trying to distract herself, when suddenly the door opened, and in walked a man, familiar yet unrecognizable. It was him, the man from the train station. Emma froze, her eyes widening in disbelief. He was dressed in a well-tailored suit now, his hair neatly combed, and his presence commanding. He walked towards her, his eyes meeting hers with a quiet intensity. He didn't say anything at first. He just smiled, the same faint smile from the station, and sat down across from her. Emma struggled to find her voice, her mind racing. I didn't expect to see you here, she finally managed to say, her voice betraying her confusion. The man chuckled softly, his gaze softening. I suppose I should have introduced myself properly yesterday, he said. I'm Liam Parker. I own the company that's interviewing you today. Emma's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just a coincidence. This wasn't just any interview. This was the man who had sat next to her at the train station, the one she had helped without knowing anything about him. Liam's smile remained, but there was something else in his eyes now, something deeper, as if he knew something she didn't. I must admit, I was impressed by your kindness yesterday, Liam continued. It's rare to find someone willing to help a stranger, especially when they have nothing to gain. That kind of character is exactly what we value here. Emma's mind was reeling. She had helped him, not for any reward, but because it felt like the right thing to do. She had no idea he was someone important, someone whose life was so far removed from hers. I don't know what to say, Emma stammered, still in shock. Liam leaned forward slightly, his expression serious now. You don't have to say anything, Emma. I want to offer you the job. The interview is over, and you've already shown me everything I need to know. Emma could hardly believe her ears. She had been hired on the spot, all because of a simple act of kindness. Her heart swelled with a mix of relief and disbelief. This was the chance she had been waiting for. But more than that, it was a reminder that sometimes, the smallest gestures could lead to the biggest changes. Emma left the office that day with more than just a job offer. She left with the knowledge that kindness, even in the most unexpected of places, could open doors she never thought possible. And as she stepped out into the busy street, she felt a spark of hope that had been missing from her life for far too long. The next few weeks felt like a whirlwind for Emma. She had been offered the job at Liam Parker's company, and her life seemed to be falling into place. She had moved into a small but cozy apartment closer to her new job, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of stability. But there was still something on her mind, something she couldn't shake. The more she worked alongside Liam, the more she realized that the man who had once seemed so distant, so unreachable, was now someone she saw every day. He wasn't just the CEO of the company she worked for. He was kind, attentive, and always made sure his employees were treated with respect. Emma began to see him in a new light. He wasn't just a successful businessman. He was someone who valued character and integrity. And that made her wonder, did he know how much his simple act of kindness at the train station had changed her life? As the days passed, they began to talk more, mostly about work, but every now and then, their conversations veered into more personal territory. They spoke about their lives, their dreams, and even their fears. Liam shared stories of his rise to success, the challenges he had faced, and the price he had paid for his ambition. Emma, in turn, spoke about her struggles, her dreams of becoming an artist, and the sacrifices she had made to survive. It wasn't long before their professional relationship began to shift. There was an unspoken connection between them, a bond that had formed from the moment they met at the train station. One evening, after a long day at the office, Liam invited Emma out for coffee. I know a place nearby that stays open late, he said. It's quiet, perfect for a little break. Emma hesitated for a moment, unsure if it was appropriate. After all, they were still technically boss and employee. But something in his voice told her that it was more than just a casual invitation. She agreed. The coffee shop was warm and inviting, with soft music playing in the background. They sat at a small table near the window, the glow of the streetlights outside casting a soft light on their faces. They spoke about everything and nothing, laughing at the small things that made them both feel more human. As the night wore on, Emma found herself enjoying his company more than she had expected. There was a quiet sincerity to Liam that made her feel at ease, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she could truly be herself. But just as she was starting to relax, Liam grew quiet. He looked out the window, his expression thoughtful. Emma, he said, his voice soft, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. She looked at him, her heart racing. Had she done something wrong? Was there something he needed to say about work? But before she could ask, Liam turned to her, his eyes meeting hers with a steady gaze. I want you to know that I appreciate you, he said. You've been more than just a great addition to the team. You've reminded me of the importance of kindness, and he paused, as if weighing his words. I don't know how to say this, but I've grown fond of you, Emma. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had never expected this. The connection they shared was undeniable, but was it more than just friendship? Was it something deeper? She didn't know how to respond. For a moment, the world seemed to stop around her, the quiet hum of the coffee shop filling the space between them. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what to say either, she replied. But I think I've grown fond of you too. Liam smiled, his gaze softening. I'm glad to hear that, he said. I've been thinking about this for a while. I don't want to rush anything, but I feel like we should see where this goes. Emma nodded, her heart racing with both excitement and fear. She had never expected to find herself in this position, working for a millionaire, no less falling for him. But as she sat across from Liam, she realized that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something real. The days that followed were filled with a new sense of hope for Emma. She and Liam had started seeing each other more frequently, though they kept their relationship quiet at work. Their connection deepened, and Emma found herself looking forward to every moment they spent together. They would meet after work for dinner, often at the quiet coffee shop where they first talked, and sometimes they would take long walks around the city, just talking about everything and nothing at all. As much as Emma enjoyed the time they shared, there was still a nagging worry in the back of her mind. She had never been one to trust easily, and despite how kind Liam had been to her, she couldn't help but feel like she was living in a dream. She was still that girl from the train station, the one who had nothing but hope and a willingness to help others. She had never imagined that someone like Liam would notice her, let alone care for her. One evening, as they sat together at their usual spot in the coffee shop, Liam seemed more distant than usual. He was staring at his cup, his hand lightly tracing the rim, and his gaze seemed lost in thought. Emma watched him quietly, wondering if something was wrong. Liam? She asked softly, breaking the silence. He looked up at her, his eyes tired. I've been thinking, he said, his voice low. We've been spending a lot of time together, and I'm starting to wonder if you're happy with this with us. Emma blinked, caught off guard by the question. Of course, I am, she replied quickly. I've never been happier. But even as she said it, she could feel the uncertainty creeping in. Had she really thought this through? Was she ready for the kind of relationship Liam might want? She had spent so many years focused on survival, trying to get by, that she had never considered what it would be like to truly let someone in. Liam looked at her intently, his gaze searching hers. I just want to make sure we're on the same page, he said. I don't want to rush anything, but I also don't want to keep secrets. I care about you, Emma, and I think you care about me too. But I need to know if you're ready for this. His words hung in the air, and Emma felt her heart race. She could feel the weight of his question pressing down on her. She had never expected things to get this serious so quickly, and she wasn't sure she was ready for the intensity of it all. But then she remembered the way he had treated her since that day at the train station, the way he had looked out for her, encouraged her, and made her believe in herself again. Maybe she didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing for sure. She didn't want to let this go. She took a deep breath and looked him in the eye. I'm ready, she said, her voice steady. I don't know what the future holds, but I want to be with you. A smile spread across Liam's face, and for the first time in weeks, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. They didn't have all the answers, but they had each other. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam settled into a comfortable routine. The initial excitement of their budding relationship had settled into something deeper, more meaningful. They spent their days working hard at the office, and their evenings together, talking about everything from their childhood memories to their dreams for the future. Emma had never felt so connected to someone before. Liam had become more than just a boss. He was a partner, someone she could rely on, someone who made her feel safe in a way she hadn't experienced in a long time. They were growing together, both in their personal and professional lives. But despite the warmth between them, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. There were moments when she saw Liam retreat into himself, his eyes distant as if he was carrying a weight he couldn't share. She noticed how, after a long day of work, he would disappear into his office, his presence becoming almost invisible. Emma had always been perceptive, and she knew something was troubling him. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Emma waited for him in the lobby of the office building. The soft glow of the lights above cast long shadows on the floor, and the buzz of the elevator echoed in the quiet space. When Liam stepped out of the elevator, he was dressed in his usual sharp suit, but his usual confident stride was replaced with something more weary. His shoulders were hunched, and there was a heaviness in his expression. "Liam," Emma called, stepping toward him. He turned, surprised to see her. "What's wrong?" she asked gently. He smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm just tired," he said, his voice softer than usual. Emma could sense that this was more than just physical exhaustion. "Is it work?" she asked, her voice steady. He hesitated, then shook his head. "It's not work, it's personal," he admitted. Emma's heart ached at the vulnerability in his voice. She stepped closer, reaching out to touch his arm. "You don't have to tell me if you're not ready," she said. "But I'm here for you, Liam. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together." For a long moment, Liam said nothing. He just looked at her, as if weighing something in his mind. Then, slowly he spoke. "I've been carrying this weight for a long time," he said, his voice low. "It's about my family. I've been so focused on building my company, on making sure everything works perfectly, that I lost sight of the people who matter most." Emma listened carefully, her hand still resting gently on his arm. "What do you mean?" she asked. Liam took a deep breath, his eyes looking distant once more. "I haven't seen my parents in years," he said quietly. "We've always been distant, but I've never really made an effort to change that. And now, I feel like I've lost them for good. I've focused so much on building my empire, and I forgot about the people who made me who I am." Emma's heart sank as she heard the pain in his words. She had known Liam as the successful CEO, the man who had everything under control. But now, she saw him as someone who was struggling, just like anyone else. She squeezed his arm gently, her voice soft but firm. "Liam, it's never too late to fix things," she said. "I know it feels like you've lost them, but you haven't. If you want to make things right, you can. You just need to take that first step." Liam looked at her, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Do you really think so?" he asked. Emma smiled softly. "I know so," she said. They stood there for a moment, the weight of their conversation hanging in the air, but for the first time, Emma saw a light in Liam's eyes, a spark of hope that hadn't been there before. Maybe they didn't have all the answers, but they had each other. And that was enough for now. In the weeks that followed, Emma and Liam grew closer, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Liam, with his towering ambition and stoic demeanor, had never been one to share much about his personal life. But with Emma, it was different. She was the first person in a long time to truly see him, not as the millionaire businessman, but as a man with flaws and regrets. He took her advice to heart and made the first move to reconnect with his family. It wasn't easy. The first phone call to his mother was stiff, filled with uncomfortable pauses. But it was a start. Over the following weeks, Liam made the effort. He sent letters, called more often, and slowly began rebuilding the relationship he had neglected for so long. Emma supported him every step of the way, offering encouragement and listening patiently as Liam opened up more about his past. Still, there was something nagging at the back of Emma's mind. Despite the progress they were making, she couldn't help but wonder if she was truly ready for everything that came with being in a relationship with someone like Liam. She had spent years struggling to survive, working multiple jobs just to make ends meet. Liam, on the other hand, lived in a world of luxury, with every need catered to. How would she fit into that world? Could their differences really be bridged, or would they eventually pull them apart? One night, as they sat together in Liam's penthouse, the conversation shifted. The city lights outside glittered like 1,000 stars, casting a soft glow on the room. Emma felt a sense of unease settle in her chest as Liam turned to her. "Emma," he began, his voice serious, "I know things haven't been easy. We both come from different worlds, but I want you to know that I'm not expecting you to change for me. I care about you just as you are. But I also need you to understand something. I'm in a position where I can't just walk away from my responsibilities. I have a company to run, and my family needs me." Emma looked at him, her heart heavy. "I understand," she said softly. But I need you to understand something too, Liam. I've spent so many years struggling, trying to make something of myself, and I can't just forget that. I can't forget where I come from. There was a long pause as both of them reflected on what the other had said. Emma's eyes searched Liam's, hoping to find reassurance, but all she saw was the same uncertainty she felt within herself. Finally, Liam reached across the table and took her hand gently in his. I know you've been through a lot, Emma, he said quietly, and I admire your strength. But we have to face the reality that we can't change our past. We can only move forward. His words hung in the air, and for the first time in a long while, Emma felt the weight of their situation settle in. She knew he was right. They couldn't change who they were or where they came from, but they could choose how to move forward. Emma took a deep breath, squeezing his hand in return. I'm willing to try, she said, her voice steady. I want to be with you, Liam. I want to be part of your world, just as much as I want you to be part of mine. A soft smile spread across Liam's face, his eyes lighting up with the warmth that had drawn Emma to him in the first place. Then let's take it one step at a time, he said. And for the first time, Emma believed that maybe, just maybe, they had a chance at making this work. The weeks that followed were filled with both growth and challenges for Emma and Liam. They were learning how to navigate their differences while also discovering more about each other. Their connection continued to deepen, but Emma couldn't shake the growing anxiety inside her. The life Liam lived, with all its luxury and expectations, was so different from the world she had grown up in. Despite their shared moments of happiness, there were times when Emma felt like she didn't belong. The more they tried to blend their two worlds, the more the pressure mounted. Emma had always been independent, relying on her own strength to get by. The idea of being with someone who had everything she had ever wanted, financial security, family connections, and a career in a world of power, was both exhilarating and overwhelming. One evening, after a particularly tough day at work, Emma sat in the quiet of her apartment, thinking about her relationship with Liam. She had always dreamed of something like this, but now that it was real, the weight of it was almost too much. Liam had opened up about his struggles with family, and Emma had been there for him, but she realized she hadn't shared her own insecurities with him. She hadn't been honest about how much she feared being left behind in this world that was so far removed from hers. She knew she had to talk to him, to share her fears and doubts. She couldn't let them fester, not when everything felt so fragile. The next evening, after work, Emma texted Liam to meet her at their favorite coffee shop. She arrived first, sitting by the window, watching the world go by. When Liam walked in, his usual confident stride was replaced by a more cautious pace. He sat down across from her, his eyes searching hers, sensing that something was different. What's on your mind? He asked, his voice gentle. Emma took a deep breath, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her cup. Liam, I've been thinking, she started, her voice shaky. About us. About everything. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I've always been independent, you know. I've never had anyone to rely on, and I've worked so hard to get where I am. But being with you, it's different. You have this entire world that I don't belong to, and I'm afraid I'm not enough for you. Liam looked at her, his expression softening. Emma, he said, his voice steady and reassuring, you are more than enough. Don't ever doubt that. You're the one who's been there for me when I needed someone the most. I've never had anyone like you in my life. You're not just part of my world. You're what makes it better. Emma's heart swelled at his words, but the worry still lingered. But what if I can't keep up with this world of yours? She asked quietly. What if I never fit in? Liam reached across the table, gently taking her hand. You don't have to keep up with anything, Emma. This is about us, not the world around us. I love you for who you are, not for where you come from or what you have. His words were like a balm to her anxious heart. She had feared that their differences would pull them apart, but in that moment, she realized that they didn't need to change who they were to be together. Liam wasn't asking her to be someone she wasn't. He was asking her to be herself. I love you too, Emma whispered, squeezing his hand. And I'm willing to try, to make this work. A soft smile spread across Liam's face as he leaned forward and kissed her forehead gently. We'll figure it out together, he said. And in that moment, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt before. Despite all the uncertainty, despite all the challenges, they had each other. And maybe, just maybe, that was all they really needed. As the months went by, Emma and Liam's relationship blossomed in ways neither of them had anticipated. They had faced their fears and insecurities, and they had chosen each other. But with their growing connection came a new challenge, the outside world. Emma had always been used to keeping a low profile, blending into the background as she worked hard to survive. But Liam's world was far from simple, and now, her place in it felt more uncertain than ever. One night, as they attended a high-profile charity event that Liam had organized, Emma felt like a fish out of water. The ballroom was filled with well-dressed guests, each person more polished than the next. The air buzzed with conversations about business deals and social climbing. Emma, in her modest but elegant dress, felt self-conscious amidst the wealth and power that surrounded her. Liam noticed the subtle tension in her posture as soon as they entered the room. "You okay?" he asked, leaning in to speak softly in her ear. Emma forced a smile, trying to hide the nervousness that was bubbling inside her. "I'm fine," she replied, though the words didn't feel true. "I just feel a little out of place, that's all." Liam squeezed her hand gently, offering her a reassuring smile. "You belong here just as much as anyone else," he said, his voice full of conviction. But despite his words, Emma couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider. As the night went on, she found herself retreating into the background, standing quietly by Liam's side as he mingled with the other guests. She felt like she was invisible, unable to bridge the gap between the world she came from and the one Liam had built for himself. Then, during a quiet moment, she overheard a conversation between two women near her. "I heard Liam's dating that waitress," one of them said, her voice laced with judgment. "I don't understand it. She's just so ordinary." Emma's heart sank at the words. The women's laughter echoed in her mind as she tried to keep her composure. It wasn't the first time she had heard people speak like this about her, but it still hurt. She had known all along that she didn't fit into Liam's world, but hearing others confirm it made her doubt herself even more. Liam, noticing her sudden change in demeanor, turned to her. "Emma, what's wrong?" he asked, his brow furrowed with concern. Emma tried to force a smile, but it was no use. "Nothing," she said quickly, though her voice wavered. "I'm just tired, that's all." Liam didn't buy it. He stepped closer, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. "Emma," he said softly, "you don't have to pretend with me. If something's bothering you, we'll face it together." His words, full of love and understanding, brought tears to Emma's eyes. She realized then that it wasn't the world around her that mattered. It was the world she shared with him. "I'm just scared, Liam," she admitted, her voice breaking. "Scared that I'm not enough for you. I'm just ordinary, and I don't know how to fit in with all of this." Liam's expression softened, and he cupped her face gently in his hands. "Emma, you don't have to fit in with anyone but me," he said, his voice tender but firm. "You are more than enough. You always have been." His words broke through the wall Emma had built around her heart, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe them. She smiled up at him, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me." Liam kissed her forehead gently, his arms wrapping around her in a comforting embrace. "You're the only one I see," he murmured, "and that's all that matters." In that moment, Emma knew that no matter the challenges they would face in the future, they would face them together. They had built something real, something strong, and nothing could take that away from them. As the months passed, Emma and Liam continued to build a life together. The challenges they faced, society's judgment, their contrasting backgrounds, slowly became less important. They had proven to each other that love, understanding, and trust could bridge any divide. The pressures of Liam's high-profile life no longer weighed on Emma as heavily. With Liam by her side, she started feeling more confident in herself, learning to embrace her worth, not because of what she had or didn't have, but because of who she was. One evening, as they sat together in the quiet of their shared home, Liam turned to Emma with a look that made her heart flutter. "Emma," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion, "we've been through a lot together, and I know we've faced some difficult moments. But I can't imagine my life without you in it." Emma's heart skipped a beat, the same feeling of love she had for him filling her chest. "I feel the same way," she replied softly, reaching for his hand. "You've changed my life in ways I didn't think were possible. You've made me believe in things I didn't know I could." Liam smiled, his eyes never leaving hers. "I've been thinking a lot about the future," he continued, his words filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. I know we've only just begun this journey together, but I want to take the next step. I want you to be a part of my future, always. Emma felt the weight of his words, her heart swelling as she realized what he was saying. Before she could respond, Liam knelt down in front of her, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. He opened it to reveal a sparkling diamond ring, the light catching it in a way that made Emma's breath catch. "Emma Brooks," he said, his voice filled with love and sincerity. "Will you marry me?" Tears welled in Emma's eyes as she looked at the man she had come to love more than she ever thought possible. The man who had seen her for who she truly was, who had made her feel valued and cherished. She had once thought she wasn't enough, but in this moment, she knew that she was everything he needed. "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Liam smiled, his eyes lighting up as he stood and kissed her gently, sealing their promise to each other. In that moment, Emma knew that they had come so far, and that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Their love had proven that two people from different worlds could come together and build something beautiful. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Emma realized that life was full of surprises. It wasn't about fitting into someone else's world or living up to expectations. It was about finding someone who made you feel whole. And she had found that in Liam. Together, they had created their own world, a world filled with love, acceptance, and the promise of a future built on mutual respect and shared dreams. Their journey wasn't over, but with each other by their side, they knew it would be one full of joy, laughter, and endless possibilities. Discover an inspiring journey through love, personal growth, and self-discovery in this heartwarming story. From humble beginnings to a life-changing encounter, follow Emma as she navigates her way through unexpected challenges and relationships in one of the most captivating millionaire stories. Emma's life takes a dramatic turn when she meets a man at a train station, unknowingly offering kindness to a millionaire in disguise. What follows is an extraordinary tale of how their paths intertwine, transforming both their lives in unimaginable ways. In this gripping narrative, you will explore the powerful themes of overcoming insecurities, embracing love, and finding your true self. Through every twist and turn, Emma's journey unfolds as a remarkable chapter in a true millionaire story that proves that wealth is not just measured by money, but by the connections we make. As Emma and her millionaire companion, Liam, forge a deep bond, they discover that love and vulnerability can overcome even the greatest obstacles. This story, like many millionaire stories, demonstrates the importance of personal growth and the transformative power of love. The story culminates in an unforgettable proposal, marking the beginning of a new chapter in Emma's life and a love story for the ages. As you follow Emma's emotional journey, you'll find that it's more than just a love story. It's an inspiring testament to the idea that anyone can achieve greatness, no matter where they come from. Dive into this heartwarming tale of how one simple act of kindness led to a life full of opportunities, dreams, and love, proving once again why millionaire stories hold such universal appeal.